The challenges confronting us will take all the creativity that we can muster, all the courage that we have as an organization, because the times are real. They are real. African American and Latino students are not completing and graduating at the same rate as their white and Asian peers. Unacceptable. Unacceptable. By the way, I have to tell you, I want to change the name. Achievement Gap. I feel some kind of way about that. Last year, one of our ACES coaches inspired me when I heard in her interview, someone asked her, how do you feel about working with at-risk students? And she made the statement, they're not at risk, they're at promise. This issue is stubborn and it has deep roots and it has multiple causes, but we can work harder at Montgomery College to eradicate it.
Welcome to Campus Conversations. I'm Fritzi Bodenheimer. We are talking today about one of the most important issues in education, not only at the college, but nationally, closing the achievement gap. With me now to help us understand what the gap is Montgomery County Council President Craig Rice. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me, Fritzi. I really appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit about what the achievement gap is and how it relates to maybe a more positive term, student success.
Well, I think that everybody has the hot button of the achievement gap as a part of their conversation now. And so it really is important for us to understand what that truly means to folks. And unfortunately, with a lot of our minority students, as well as students with some learning disabilities, those are the ones that we seem to see that keep falling behind. And what we're trying to do is make sure that for all of our students, regardless of their socioeconomic status, regardless of their ethnicity, regardless of their background as a whole, we want to ensure that all of our students are achieving. And I think that all of us are committed to that, whether it's the local governments, our school system, both K through 12, as well as our colleges as well, are really committed to making sure that we're closing that gap.
How is this manifesting itself in particular in Montgomery County?
Well, you know, it's unfortunate that in one of the richest counties and wealthiest counties in the nation that we still see this gap. And I really think that it speaks more to just socioeconomic status, and it really speaks to how we're reaching out to our kids, how we're teaching them, and how we can best allow our teachers to innovate in the classroom and give them the freedoms necessary so that they can teach to all of our children. That's really what this is about, and I think that all of us are committed to trying to allow our teachers to do what they've always been really good at, which is reaching our kids.
I have to ask you, you know, a lot of people do have the perception Montgomery County is a wealthy county, and maybe people think we don't have to worry maybe about the achievement gap here, but I'm going to guess you're going to say that's not correct.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I think that people really don't understand the diversity that's here in Montgomery County as well, and truly understand that now we are a majority minority. I know that's a double, it really doesn't make sense, but a majority minority county. And we have a lot of people that are coming in with English as a second language. And so it creates a challenge in really trying to ramp those students up and making sure that they're up to speed. And so our teachers are working very diligently. We've increased the number of para-educators that are in our classrooms, as well as the number of ESOL teachers that are in our classrooms, to make sure that we're helping to do that. But unfortunately, people think of Montgomery County as a place where we don't have these challenges. You know, when you hear those kinds of things, you automatically assume District of Columbia, Prince George's County, areas like that. But Montgomery County really represents a wealth of diversity.
If I'm not a teacher and I'm not a parent, why should it matter to me?
Well, I think it matters because when we look at our total workforce, when we look at making sure that all of our children are prepared to enter the workforce, to be able to succeed and go on to do great things, we lose. We lose if we don't have all of our children that are up to speed and able to live up to their full potential. We as a society rely upon everybody to contribute and do their part to make sure that we become an even better and brighter society. And so that's the reason why it's an investment for all of us when it comes to education. That's the reason why Montgomery County invests over half of its budget into our school system. Of a $5 billion budget, $2.5 billion goes to our school system to make sure that we are preparing for the future. And I think that when you talk about global competitiveness, that is increasingly becoming a concern for us here in the United States, as well as in the state of Maryland and Montgomery County, it's going to be imperative for us to really make sure that we're addressing the achievement gap.
You're a parent. You are also a graduate of the Montgomery County school system. What perspective does that help you as you're going through and passing budgets and making programs? How does that perspective influence you?
Well, you know, it's a really interesting perspective because I actually was a part of Montgomery County's first magnet program. So that math, science, computer science magnet that was set up to try and help address the achievement gap issues back then. I won't say how long ago that was, but, but it really is something that to me is near and dear to my heart because I've seen it. I see it in each of my children's classrooms as well, to where as I go in and visit these schools, I can identify and see where some of those gaps are. And I think that it really is a perspective where I care about my school system, the school system that I went through, and I want to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity that I had, the same opportunity that my daughters now have coming through MCPS to make sure that they can be successful and do whatever it is that they want to do.
If you had all the budget in the world, what's one thing you'd like to do right away to help close the gap?
Well, I think really it boils down to class size. Class size is a significant part, making sure that our teachers can do more in spending time with our children. I've also talked about a teacher pilot program, which is basically what the school system has done a spin on, to where they actually are having floating teachers that are really working with students inside the classroom instead of separating and making kids feel as though they're not a part of the class anymore because they're falling a little bit behind. Bringing teachers into the classroom to work with those students, those para-educators I mentioned before. That's a key component. We need to increase that and make sure that we have more of those as we really try and address the achievement gap.
Councilman Rice, thank you so much for chatting with us today.
Thank you.
And when we return, we'll take a closer look at the achievement gap right here at Montgomery College. We are taking a closer look today at closing the achievement gap. With me now are Montgomery College Dean Tony Hawkins and Professor Hilda Smith. They co-chaired a task force that identified and developed a series of recommendations for closing the achievement gap here at Montgomery College. Let me start with you, Professor Smith. Why did the college convene a committee to study the achievement gap?
Well, it was identified in the strategic plan of the institution, the 2020, that there was a need to intentionally address the discrepancy in achievement between certain groups of students at the institution. So it became part of a charge that was given to create a task force to search, look at best practices and look at data and to see what we are doing, what type of programs and initiatives are in place at the institution that are addressing the achievement gap disparities between the minority students such as Latino and African American and their counterparts, white students and some Asian students.
And after you had this committee, Dean Hawkins, what did you discover?
Well, we began by trying to find out where the achievement gap existed. Overall, the college's graduation and transfer rate at 17% and 23% students transferring to other institutions. When we looked at how subgroups such as African Americans and Hispanic Latino students, when we looked at the subgroups, we saw that there was indeed a gap of the 17% of the student population at Montgomery College that graduate within 3 years, the numbers with the subgroups of Hispanic, Latino, Latina students and African American students, that gap in completion rate was quite low. So we started with looking at where the gap existed, and the gap existed more prominently among African American males and Latino male students.
And this is not just a problem on the campus here, right? This is a problem that goes way beyond our campus borders.
It not only is being studied by the college and the 3 campuses of the college, but also has a really strong group at MCPS that are looking at the achievement gap for both subpopulations. So we're joining with our MCPS counterparts to see how we can close the achievement gap, not only at the college, but reaching back to MCPS to see how we can help facilitate their efforts and achievements as well.
Professor Smith, you deal with students every single day. You have students in your office, and it's a part of your daily routine. Was there anything that you discovered in the research that surprised you?
Not really, because we have an idea pretty much as to where the weaknesses are in some of our students. And being an open access institution, we have students from all type of background in socioeconomics and cultures, command of the English language. So we pretty much know, as an advisor, we see different types of students, and we know anecdotally what's part of the contributes to the gap.
Is gender part of the gap?
Actually, female students are doing much better in transferring. Actually, African American female students transfer at the same rate as the Montgomery College student population overall. They're not completing at the same rate as the general student population. Females are, but they are being successful in transferring. So that creates a pretty interesting dynamic of how you attack the achievement gap to close it. The issues and concerns and strategies are very different whether you're a male or a female, African American or Latino, Latina.
So speaking of attacking it, how do we do that? What are some of the recommendations that came out of the task force?
Well, socioeconomic is part of the achievement gap, because it depends on how well the student did perhaps in high school, like what level of preparation they come to the college with. So resources, financial aid, advising, that they seek advising, the parent involvement, all of that is very crucial to how we attack the achievement gap.
And we came up with 47 recommendations. So it was a group of about 80 people representing constituents both within the college as well as outside of the college, students, community members. And so you can imagine having such a large group, it translates into a large number of recommendations. So we had 47 recommendations that deal specifically with cultural competence, so really making our faculty and staff aware of the differences of the subgroups and how, what they bring to the classroom and how we utilize their knowledge and experiences outside the classroom to make them successful students. We're looking at, or one of the recommendations deals specifically with the types of administrators that we hire and the types of faculty members that we hire, so that they are more representative of the students that we're trying to help. We're looking at courses that are barrier courses to student success for these subgroups and figuring out ways to create interventions for those students. And one of the larger recommendations deals specifically with mentoring and creating a mentoring program because we have found through our research of best practices that mentoring is a very strong component in the success of our students. We have small examples. Here at the Rockville campus, we have Boys to Men that has a very high success rate. The report recommends that those kinds of programs be replicated across the 3 campuses to connect students with mentee or mentors who are able to help them navigate the terrain called higher education.
Thank you for helping us navigate this very important issue. And as you can see, student success is something that everyone at Montgomery College is striving to achieve. Producer Marcus Rosano sat down with one of the college's great professors to ask about his perspective on students in the classroom.
I'm with Professor John Hammond, and he is the Dean of Mathematics and Statistics at Montgomery College and the 2012 Maryland Professor of the Year. Thanks, Professor Hammond, for giving us a couple of minutes today. Today's episode of Campus Conversations is about the achievement gap, but seeing as you have spent so many years in the classroom as a successful professor, we wanted to get your take on what the student experience is like here at Montgomery College, and that in turn is going to help us kind of identify how we're going to attempt to close the achievement gap. So let's just start with that question right there. What in your experience have you seen as the student experience here at Montgomery College?
So let me start with what happened last semester in spring 2013 when I was co-teaching a course with Dean Kathy McCallion. And we were teaching the lowest developmental math class that we have here at the college. And the students coming into that class have, like a lot of our classes, a very wide background. Mm-hmm. Some of them come in and are on task and ready to go, and others are far behind. It would be nice if everyone came in, with the same backgrounds, but these backgrounds are pretty far apart. Yep. And so our goal is to try to make sure that we can get them to the same endpoint. And so in particular this semester we had students that came in, some of whom were back from the military and had other issues going on there. Some had health issues that were going on, as well as very different math preparation backgrounds. So the important thing was being able to try to work with them individually and understand that their backgrounds really are different. And I can't wish that away or just wish that things were different, but deal with the students that we actually have. For me, it was really important to make sure that we had equal standards for everybody, that we didn't make the bar too high, mm-hmm. but yet we gave everyone the support to be able to reach those bars. So in this particular class, we had an 80% rate that we said you have to get 80% on these tests to keep moving on. But the important thing is for those students who weren't able to reach that 80%, mm-hmm. we didn't just leave them behind or let them fend for themselves. We worked with them individually with additional hours and giving them the support they needed so that they could eventually reach that mastery level.
And that is sort of a microcosm of what Montgomery College is. I just saw a study this morning that we are the 10th most diverse community college in the nation. So now you have folks who have different family issues, financial issues, and they have kids that just come out of high school and are jumping right into the classroom without missing a beat. But you have to mix all those together into one learning experience. So that's got to be a challenge all over Montgomery College.
Yeah, certainly not limited to developmental courses, right. or limited to the math program. And so in all of the classes, I think it's really important that you get to know the students individually. There's no way to kind of group students together and expect that you can know their individual experiences. And I think that's one of the things that we do very well here. We have reasonable class sizes, we have faculty that care about their classes, and that one-on-one interaction is what's going to make the difference. I don't think that we're going to be able to have large programs to
Sure.
really affect individual students. It really has to be one faculty member with one student and making that difference.
Talk a little bit about the math class that you sort of reinvented. You got rid of lectures. You sort of turned it upside down a little bit. Is that part of your strategy in reaching students, maybe in a little bit of a different way?
Absolutely, and I think that reinvention of how we have redesigned our math class is really helpful in trying to close this gap. The big thing that comes out of that is that we have clear and equal expectations for all students. Everyone has to do the same mastery, and either my overt or hidden biases can't really affect that, right? They're computer graded, and they have to get to that 80% level in order to make it to the next part of the course. In that course in particular, I want to point out just a little bit of numbers.
Mm-hmm. You're a numbers guy, so let's hear them.
So I have my cheat sheet here, but for the difference between black students and white students, mm-hmm. when they come in needing developmental math, there's a 23% difference between the number of white students that need this and the number of black students that need this. But if we look within 2 years at that same group who have actually completed the college level math, that difference goes to just a mere 8%.
Oh, wow.
Right, so that's a 65% drop in those 2 years in that difference.
Wow.
With Hispanic students, that difference is even greater. Right, when they come in, there's a 28% difference between where the white students and the Hispanic students score in terms of needing developmental. But by the end of 2 years, when I look at how many have passed the college level mathematics, we're down to a 6% difference. And so that's a 78% change that we've made in that gap. What's important to me about this is that we're really seeing a difference, right? When they come in here, we're holding everyone to that same standard, we're helping students get to that high level, and we're having students that are successful.
That's excellent. And you sort of answered my final question. We have about 30 seconds here, but you are still a professor, you always will be a professor, but now you're the dean. What do you see as the students' future here at Montgomery College? And again, we're not going to close the achievement gap in this interview or in this show, but what do you see as something up ahead in the future?
Well, so I think the awareness of it is huge, right? And the college has been doing a very good job about getting that message out so that individual faculty can really start to notice this and make sure they're not leaving someone behind. Okay. We have work to do on making sure that we get students a higher rate than passing, but that achievement gap, we've got work to do, but we're making progress, and I'm very, very proud of how we're doing.
Very good. Well, Professor Hammond, thanks again for giving us a few minutes, a very insightful conversation.
As Marcus and Professor Hammond just explained, at MC, support for students is vitally important. Up next, we meet a recent MC graduate who, despite challenges, is aiming high.
My name is Yannick. I just recently graduated from Montgomery College. I am going to study business management at the University of Maryland, College Park, in the fall. I came to the United States in the year 2000 as a result of my father being a diplomat. I have a little sister who was actually born in 2001, right about the time my parents separated. So I had to take care of my little brother and my older sister also because she had epilepsy, and my little sister who was just born. So I was 11 around that time, 10, 11. So I had to, grow up quickly. That responsibility sort of helped me focus more on school and see the world in a different way than my peers were looking at it. So it definitely humbled me, shall we say. When I got to high school, I realized I couldn't really get a driver's license. I couldn't go to college because I was undocumented, and I didn't even know until I tried to get a job. Since my father, he came here with us, and we were dependent on his diplomatic status to stay here. Since he was no longer here, we weren't under any status. If the DREAM Act had not passed, I would probably go out to Senegal. I can't see myself paying 3 times state tuition. I don't qualify for FAFSA, so I have to. All the money that I do get has to be privately donated, and I also depend on my mother, my single mother of 4, which I really feel bad about taking her money. And also my aunt from Senegal sends me money to pay for my tuition as well. Yeah, there are plenty of struggles, but at the end of the day, I am and we're also grateful to be, in college and actually being able to study, because there are undocumented kids in other states like Georgia who are not even allowed to go to your university because they're undocumented, and that's the state of Georgia's policy. So I became involved in the Maryland DREAM Act in 2012, and I became a DREAM activist. So I would go to different venues and churches and speak about the DREAM Act, and I would also tell my story to thousands of people, and it really helped me empower myself. And through that, I was also encouraged by Professor Gus and the Boys to Men program. I was walking from the cafeteria, and Professor Gus was handing out flyers to the Boys to Men meeting. And then he was like, "Brother, come to the meeting right now, we're gonna, further." So I was like, okay, who's this man? So I took a look at the flyer. So I was actually on my way home because I was starving. And then since the flyer was like, food would be provided, I was like, oh God, should I go home and wait 30 minutes or should I just go right? I was like, all right, I'm gonna get some grub real quick. I didn't even know what the program was about. Thank God I went because it absolutely, not changed my life, but it did more than that. It sort of enlightened me into this world that I didn't know existed. You know, I grew up without my dad, so a lot of the mentors and the people that had come through the Boys to Men program really sort of helped me and guided me. And I could also pass that along to my little brother and the other people that I mentor. I actually run a after-school program at Joyce West Middle School. It's called Achievers, a mentoring program. And a lot of stuff that I learned from Boys to Men, I transfer and talk to the middle school kids about that as well. In 5 years, I want to have a good job. I want to be able to support my family, which is the #1 thing in my mind right now. And I just want to be able to continue the activism work that I'm doing. My name is Yannick Juf, and I'm a Montgomery College graduate.
So we've heard a lot about the achievement gap today, and it looks like we're making some progress, but there's still a little bit of work to be done.
You're right, Fritzy. This is a challenging topic, a challenging conversation we're having today. One of the things that we have to remember is that the achievement gap, or closing the achievement gap, isn't just a credit initiative. As Councilmember Rice was talking about, it's getting people involved in the workforce, and that's the ultimate goal, having a working community. At Montgomery College, we have one of the most successful workforce development and continuing education programs in the state, if not the nation. So there's non-credit programs that can help close this gap. And then there's the trades, and there's certificates from workforce development and continuing education. So that's helping the workforce. And another thing that I'd like to touch on is community engagement. And we have community engagement centers opening up all over the county. Right now we have one in Gaithersburg at the Montgomery Village, at the Gaithersburg Library in Montgomery Village. And the new director of community engagement is Carla Silvestri, and she's doing a great job. So we have one very close to up and running in Silver Spring and for East County, and we're going to have 2 more after that to add to Gaithersburg and Silver Spring. So what better way to get learning opportunities to the community than to get into the communities and engage with the communities. So we're bringing Montgomery College to the community. So I think that's a great way to go about, getting our programs and getting our opportunities to the people of Montgomery County.
Making everyone come together. If we all work on this together, it's easy to see how we could quickly close the gap.
Absolutely. And one final thing is that, we can't count on everybody, to see marketing and advertising about Montgomery College. We want to bring Montgomery College to you.
Thanks, Marcus. And thanks to all of you. We're out of time, but for more information about any of the topics we cover on Campus Conversations, visit montgomerycollege.edu/campusconversations.